This week we're going to talk about Chapter 9, which is audio, and audio helps to create the atmosphere. We will talk about why audio is important in game development. We'll talk about different types of audio like voiceovers, sound effects, and music. We'll talk about the difference between looping and adaptive music. We will talk about how it's different composing for games than it is for movies. And we're also going to talk about some of the tools that you can use to create your game audio. So game audio is actually very important. We walk around in the world and we always hear ambient sounds. So if you don't have any sound in your game, then people will think that's kind of strange. So it's always good to have some kind of sound or music or something going on in the background of the game. But it does other very important things. The first thing it does is it sets the mood. So if you have a very gloomy game, then you want the music to be kind of sad and gloomy. If you have a really happy game, then you want the music to be happy. So you want the music that's in the game or the sound effects to help set the mood of what's happening in the game. Also, sound effects can provide game cues. So if someone knocks on a door, it helps to be able to hear the knocking sound. If someone opens a creaky door, you want the door to creak. Maybe you want to have footsteps so the player can hear either their own footsteps or footsteps that are coming towards them. If the player pushes a button, it's nice to have a sound that goes with that button push. You get cues that way. It also enhances the quality of the game. So all the things I've already talked about help to enhance the quality of the game. First of all, to have some sounds going on because most of us are used to hearing sounds in the world. And secondly, it sets the mood and it provides game cues and it helps to immerse the player into the game, which is the next point here. So a player will be much more immersed if the audio is done well. It also reinforces the player's physical sensations. So again, if the player is doing something in the game and there's a sound that goes with that, it helps the player to feel that they've actually really done that thing. And game audio consists of sound effects, voiceovers, and music. So now we're going to talk about each of those. So sound effects are the little sounds that go along with the gameplay. So again, if you're knocking on a door or you're walking through, opening a door, or footsteps, or the water running in a river, or the wind blowing, or rain, those are all sound effects. And sound effects are used to provide feedback and cues, to provide a realistic atmosphere, and it helps the player to be much more immersed in the game because they're getting all those little sound effects. You can go out and record natural sounds from the real world, but another way to do your sound effects is to do what's called Foley sounds. These were named after Jack Foley, and he helped make the transition from silent movies to the talkies. They found that when they were filming the movie, they couldn't pick up all the sound that people were making, all the background noises and footsteps and car horns and all of that. So what he did is he recreated the noises in a sound studio and then synced them to the action on the screen. And your textbook has a whole list of how you can create Foley sounds. And then I've also given you some other videos to watch that are all about Foley, very interesting videos that show how you can create Foley and put that into your game. Oftentimes too, there are libraries of sounds that are already out there that you can then use to put sound effects into your games. Next we have voiceovers. Now voiceovers are all of the spoken dialogue, narration, monologue, anything that's spoken. And what happens is you have a voiceover artist that goes into the studio and records all of the lines, the sounds that the characters make, um, and and anything that a character says. It's much more difficult to be a voiceover artist for games than it is for film, because in a film, the voiceover artist can literally watch the film and see what they're supposed to be saying, right? And match it with what's happening on the screen. But games, first of all, are much longer than films, and there's no way to watch the entire game. Also, games are non-linear, so the the voiceover artist can't record all the lines in order. The lines are going to be completely out of context, and there's going to be many more lines to record than in a film. Sometimes also they have to record the same lines or sounds over and over and over, and they have to make every single sound. So maybe if the character is a fighter and they're fighting and they're making, sounds like whatever, all those different sounds that they might make, you'll want the voiceover artist to record them several different times so that when the player's playing the game, they're not hearing the same sounds over and over. And also, voiceover artists often work alone, making their job a little more difficult. I also have a great video about voiceover artists that you should watch. Music is the last part of audio, and that is the score, the instrumental music that's written for the game. And it's, again, much more difficult to score a video game than a film for the same reasons that it's difficult to be a voiceover artist for a game. Games are nonlinear, so you can't just write the music to fit perfectly with what's happening on the screen, with what the action is. A composer can watch a movie from front to back and literally match all of the music with the movie. But it's a lot different in a game because, first of all, there's many more hours of gameplay, but also since games are nonlinear, players can decide to go in different directions, and that makes it much more complicated when recording the music. And again, they can't see the entire film. There's two types of music in games. One is called looping music, and the other is adaptive music. So looping music is a short piece of music that just repeats over and over. So if any of you turned on the music for Farmville, that is looping music, and it just goes over and over and over. Adaptive music is music that changes with the gameplay. So you'll have a lot more music that's created, and then it matches up depending on where the player is in the game or what the player is doing. And I'm sure you have all had experience with both types of music. Looping music can be really annoying sometimes, so the key is to make it long enough and to make the beginning and the end similar enough that you can't tell where it starts and where it ends. Some of the tools that you can use to create audio are music production software like GarageBand or Audacity. There's a lot of them out there. There are also websites you can use. Soundtrap and Pulseboy are two examples. You can also have your own recording equipment, record music for video games. And as I mentioned, there are sound effect libraries that are in existence. So everyone knows that a lot of video game music is really great, and you probably recognize a lot of it. And maybe some of you even listen to it in your spare time. They now have, CDs that are full of video game music. So you know how important it is. Again, I have a whole lot of videos that I want you to watch. Please take time to go through them and watch them all. What we talked about here was the importance of game audio, sound effects, voiceovers, music, and the tools. So have a great week. Don't forget all the assignments that are due. And if you have any questions, please email me, or you can come to my office hours on Thursdays from 4 to 5.